What is wealth exactly? It's a simple question that may seem to have a simple answer, but I think it's different than what most people think. Heck, this channel is called the Immigrant Wealth Channel, so a definition is probably in order. Most of us are conditioned to think that someone who is wealthy has a lot of money. It's everywhere, and to be honest, for much of my life, I thought the same thing. Many use money as a scorecard. For example, there's the Forbes magazine richest people in the world list. Elon Musk is currently number 1 on the list, but there's also Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and Larry Ellison and a number of other billionaires on that list. But are they truly wealthy? I'm fairly certain that there are people on this list who are not wealthy, at least the way I define it. Because as I've gotten older, I've realized that my definition, my thinking about wealth was just way too limited. It's actually much bigger than that. So in my view, wealth is not just one factor, money. It's actually 6 factors. I'm going to describe each of these 6 factors. And if you stay until the end, I'm going to share with you a tool that you can use to analyze your own wealth and see where you stand. I really think this will be very helpful for you and give you an idea of some of the things you may need to work on. The first is family and relationships. Wealth relating to family and relationships means that you have healthy, positive relationships with the people that you care about the most. And guess what? They're probably the people that care the most about you too. You see, when all is said and done, they're the ones that are going to be standing next to you, regardless of what happens in the other areas of your life. I would consider wealthy in this category someone who has positive relationships with their family and or friends. That means seeing them on occasion, spending quality time together, and basically doing what you would hope a family member or a friend would do for you. A poor person or an unwealthy person in this category, in my mind, is somebody that has negative or even hostile relationships with people like family and friends. Or perhaps they're estranged and they haven't talked in years. Now, there could very well be very good reasons why you may not talk to your family or your friends, but it's still a piece of the definition of wealth that needs to be recognized for what it is. In my case, I'm very close to my family and I see them pretty often. But I don't have as many friends as many people just because I've moved around the country and in Latin America for years. So I've never had a chance to really develop strong, lasting relationships like that. But my family has always been there, so I think I score pretty decently in this category. If you're towards the poor side of this category, consider making conscious effort to reestablish connections and spend time with loved ones and friends. I strongly believe that this will make a huge impact on your happiness as you get older in life. It's no wonder that I've heard before that people, when they're on their deathbed and preparing to pass away, that one of the final things they just want is their family around them. So even after everything is gone, the family is really what people think of when they're about to pass. So it gives you the idea of the importance of it. And believe me, you don't want to be the person that's sitting there in that situation without anybody there to support you. The second is spiritual and contribution. Wealth relating to spirit or contribution can mean a lot of things. For some people, it could be a strong belief in God or whatever religion they practice. For others, it can be a strong belief in meditation or contemplation. That could be their spirit. It's essentially having some sort of spiritual belief, whatever that may be, and taking time to think about it, to consider it, and to live it. Under this bucket is also contribution, which could come in many forms. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to donate money. It can mean donating your time, your energy, or even your focus. What matters is that you're donating something that somebody else finds valuable. And it doesn't mean you need to donate to a specific organization like a nonprofit, although you can certainly do that. Instead, it could be contributing to an individual or a family. Those are all good options. In my case, I feel like I score pretty high in this one because I do donate time and money to organizations that I care about. I work closely with the largest social services agency in the area that focuses on immigrants because that's what my mission is, to help immigrants of all types become successful in this country. My wife and I also support the treatment of a family member who cannot afford their own treatment, and that's really fulfilling to be able to do that. If you feel you are poor in this area, consider rekindling your spiritual relationship. Get back in touch with that, whatever that might be. If it's contribution that you feel you're lacking, then start donating. If you don't have money, donate time. If you don't have time, donate money. I think it's true that people think about, well, I'll start donating money later when I'm making more money. The fact of the matter is, if you're not donating now, then when you have more money, you're going to have more expenses and you're not going to donate then either. So start now. I'm a big believer that even the smallest actions can have big consequences. The third is physical and health. Physical well-being and health are so important to live a wealthy life. What good is $1 billion if you're sick or ill health? I've heard this saying before. I don't know who said it, but I really took this to heart. When we're healthy, we all have, tens, even hundreds of goals that we're going after. But once we become severely ill, there's only one goal we have, and that's to get better. So this is such a fundamental need that when we don't have it, it makes everything else seem unimportant. Being wealthy in regards to health includes obvious things like being in good physical health and eating well for the long term. And it doesn't mean that you're super muscular or that you eat salads all the time. That has nothing to do with it. It means that you make efforts to take care of yourself, and with consistent application, that will benefit you over time. Those efforts pay off. For me, this is an area that I admit I struggle with. I've never been a fan of working out, but I do know the benefits of physical activity for my body and for my long-term health. I want to be somebody that can move around easily and lift whatever they want to lift and be in great shape for many years. Because this is a weakness for me, I recognized this a long time ago. So I've hired a personal trainer, and I've been working with them for some time on helping me being accountable, showing up, and doing the workouts. Regarding my eating, I feel I do pretty well here. I stay away from processed foods and I cut my carbs as much as I can. Now, I will have moments where I'll deviate, but those are the exception rather than the rule, and that's important. If you feel you're doing poorly in this area of health, then consider getting started with simple things like committing to go on a walk every day, even a short walk, or perhaps making sure you're eating a very healthy breakfast or a very healthy lunch, and start from there. Even ideas like parking far away when you go to a store so you have to walk further, or skipping the bread basket at the restaurant and say no thanks, those things can add up over time as being beneficial for you. Hey, real quick, are you liking this video? Please click the like button so YouTube knows and we'll share it with other immigrants. Now, back to the video. The fourth area is intellectual and education. Growing intellectually is also something that's very important to living a wealthy life. The ability to continually learn and grow in your life is known as a growth mindset. It's a term that essentially means that you're open to learning and you realize that you can learn at any age. It's something I'm very proud of because this is something that I do very well. My path in real estate investing is a great example. Some years ago, I made the decision to dive into this, and I've really made tremendous progress over the years. When I look back, I'm shocked at how much I've learned. Now, you don't need to be a professional student or constantly taking classes or seminars. That's not needed at all. You could simply require yourself to maintain an open mind on ideas that are coming your way. As we age, that seems to become harder. And for young people, this is really important to maintain an open mind. If you feel you're poor in this area, then consider what could you learn? What could you start pursuing and finding out about? Is there something you've always wanted to focus on, but something's held you back for some reason? Maybe it's time to dive in. If you're a busy professional, perhaps that means committing to listening to podcasts while you're driving to work or while you're working out. Or you could read a chapter of a book every night, and before you know it, you're going to feel like you're progressing in this area and enjoying the process. The fifth one is adventure. Now, this may seem like an odd inclusion on this list. Like, what does adventure have to do with being wealthy? Well, I believe it has a lot to do with it. What good is a life without some sort of excitement? If life is just boring throughout your entire life, what a waste. It's so exciting to be alive right now, and taking advantage of that opportunity is important. What does someone who is wealthy do with adventure? They do a lot of things. They don't need to be expensive or monumental. For example, they travel, and it doesn't have to be travel overseas to an exotic location. It could be things like going to a nearby city for a weekend, or camping at a campground. These are activities that don't cost a lot of money, but they inject excitement in your life. Wealthy people, when it comes to adventure, would do things like joining clubs or groups, or volunteering at a special place that they care a lot about, or maybe learning how to dance salsa, or even renting a car and driving right along the California coast. There's all sorts of ideas. Now, this is an area that's not really my strong suit, but I've worked a lot on this since I married my wife. She's someone that loves spontaneity and doing things just impromptu. That's not me necessarily, but I really love how she lights up when we do things like this. And by the time we do them, I feel really good at the end too. For example, this short-term rental that we bought has injected a lot of excitement in our lives. Trying to get it up and running and visiting it has been a lot of fun. We travel together on various trips. We go on impromptu date nights when we feel like it. It's fun and relaxed and makes life just so much more interesting. If you feel poor in this area like I did, then use some of the ideas that I just talked about to inject some spice into your life. You can take a class, learn how to cook a specific dish that you really love, or maybe even attend a music festival somewhere in the region. The ideas are almost endless. Just commit to doing something fun and adventurous for you. You'll be glad you did, and you'll build a memory bank full of great memories. And the last one is financial. This one is last for a reason because it's the first thing we all think of when we think of wealthy. Yes, money is important, and it does provide ways to more easily get the things that we talked about earlier, but it alone does not make happiness. There are plenty of rich people that are not happy, and under my definition, they are not wealthy. There's something they need to fix to become truly wealthy in life. So why is money focused on so much when it comes to wealth? Well, maybe it's because it's so easy to measure. I mean, could you imagine a Forbes magazine list of the top 400 best relationships in the world? It doesn't exist, right? Those things are hard to measure. Money is not. But now you know that wealth is a much broader concept than simply money. And now that you appreciate that, I hope you'll consider adopting this definition in your own life. One thing I want to mention that I see people do a lot when it comes to this area that really impacts happiness is not knowing how much money is enough. And I know this because I'm guilty of this myself. I've caught myself when I was younger setting a financial target, and then when I reach it, I'm like, oh, great, I'm gonna set another higher target. And then work towards that, reach that, oh, great, I'm gonna set another higher target. And the continual rat race of setting higher and higher targets for yourself doesn't lead to happiness. It means you don't have a definition of what truly is enough. And for me, I found it was a sad way to live. Really think about this. What amount of money or material wealth is enough for you to be satisfied? Figure that out for yourself and try to stick to that for the rest of your life, and that'll be a recipe for more happiness. Now that I've described the 6 different aspects of being wealthy, let's look at a tool that I've created that I want you to use to help you think about your own wealth. Okay, so I created this personal wealth tool to help you think about how you rank yourself along these 6 factors. And the way you do this is you can measure yourself from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest score and 5 being the highest score. So for example, if I go 1 here is low and then 5 is the highest. So potentially you score a 2, a 3, a 4, or 5. And you can do that across all these different categories. What that'll do for you is it'll give you a sense of kind of perhaps where you need to work on. So for example, let's look at this depiction here. So in this case, this individual would have a 5 on all aspects, which I think probably never happens. Nobody is a 5 in everything. So this would be the very best you could do, but it's really not realistic. Let's look at an example. So say somebody's looks like this. They score pretty high with financial. Their relationships are so-so. Their spiritual and contribution they feel are pretty average. Their physical and health they feel is pretty high. The intellectual side is skyrockets. They're doing amazing. But the adventure side is really low. And you can see by looking at this diagram where they probably need to be working on, which is the adventure and also family and relationships. Let's look at another example. Here's somebody else. They score very high with family. They score very high with spirit and contribution. They score very high with physical and health, and they're okay with intellectual and education. They're average. They're off the charts when it comes to adventure, but the financial piece is really low. So this kind of gives you a sense of where are some of the areas that I need to work on to potentially grow myself. And the idea is, if you can balance these 6 different things and get decent scores across all of these, then you're more than likely going to be having a wealthy, happy life, which is really what we all want. Now, if you look in the description below, you're going to see a link that's going to take you to a PDF copy of this exact tool. So I encourage you to go there, download it, and just think about where you rate yourself and look and see where do you think you're balanced or off balanced. So there you have it. I hope you find value in this tool I'm sharing. You know, I really like how Henry David Thoreau summarized what he thought of wealth. He said, "Wealth is the ability to fully experience life." I couldn't agree more with what he said. And when you consider the 6 factors that I shared with you, I think you have the ability to do it too. So thank you for watching the Immigrant Wealth Channel.